Good evening, and welcome to the Foxborough Zoning Board of Appeals, June 26, 2024 meeting. This meeting and the hearing that we will consider is being broadcast and recorded by Foxborough Cable Access. I would like to first recognize Catherine Feerick, who is the new Director of Land Use and Economic Development. Catherine, do you want to say a couple words? When I say new, Catherine's been here 2.5 weeks now, I guess,
yeah,
right?
This is the
she's
third
a
week.
veteran, so.
Yeah, an old hand by now, sure. Good evening, thank you for inviting me to speak. I just would like to say thank you all for the warm welcome I've received so far. I really look forward to working with everyone. So far, the staff have just been wonderful, catching me up to speed. They know everything, so I greatly appreciate that. I really look forward to hearing about what the community's needs are and how I can help.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Our first order of business was supposed to have been the board reorganization, which we're required to do every year after the select board appoints members to the board. Unfortunately, though, because Kurt isn't here and we need to do this only with the 3 regular members, we'll have to hold it off until hopefully next month in July. The second matter that we have is a request for modification of a comprehensive permit. Is Stephanie Kiefer on? She's on, okay. So this is a request for modification of comprehensive permit 22-11. It deals with 119 Morse Street. In March 2023, we approved a comprehensive permit authorizing the development of 36 condominium residential units at 119 Morse Street. Our decision was appealed by an abutter to this property. In connection with the prospective settlement of that appeal, the property's developer, 119 Morse Street Realty Trust, has requested by means of a letter to the board dated June 6, 2024, from its attorney, Stephanie Kiefer, to make several modifications to the permit. And I'll let Attorney Kiefer address those modifications in a few minutes. Our responsibility is to determine whether the requested modifications are substantial or insubstantial. If we determine that they are substantial, we're required to hold a public hearing concerning them. If we determine that they are insubstantial, the comprehensive permit is deemed to be modified to incorporate the requested changes. And let me just say that what we're doing right now is not a public hearing. The regulations that concern comprehensive permits do not define substantial or insubstantial. However, they give examples for each. The following examples are circumstances that will ordinarily not constitute a substantial change of the kind that's described in the regulations. So these are matters that are insubstantial changes. A reduction in the number of housing units proposed, a decrease of less than 10% in the floor area of individual units, a change in the number of bedrooms within individual units if such changes do not alter the overall bedroom count of the proposed housing by more than 10%, a change in the color or style of materials used, or a change in the financing program under which the applicant plans to receive a subsidy if the change affects no other aspect of the proposal. Those are examples of insubstantial changes. They are not all inclusive. The following are examples of substantial changes: an increase of more than 10% in the height of the buildings, an increase of more than 10% in the number of housing units proposed, a reduction in the size of the site of more than 10% in excess of any decrease in the number of housing units proposed, a change in building type, for example, garden apartments, townhouses, or high-rises, or a change from one form of housing tenure to another. Those are examples of substantial changes, but again, those examples are not all inclusive. So with that, I'll turn it over to Attorney Kiefer.
Good evening. Stephanie Kiefer on behalf of the applicant, 119 Morse Street.
Realty Trust. And as has been presented, on behalf of the applicant, I submitted by letter dated June 6, 2024, a notice of proposed and substantial changes to the board's comprehensive permit decision. And just by way of background, I thank the chair. On, I think, pages 3 and 4 of my letter, I went through those provisions of the 40B regulations that set forth the examples of substantial and insubstantial changes. It's the applicant's position that these are clearly fall within the type and scope of the regulatory examples of insubstantial changes. But with that said, that is for the board to determine. And I will briefly and quickly try to walk you through what the limited changes are. And just as a preface to that, I want to clarify that there's no proposed change as to the number of units, the size of the property, or the relocation of any structures or changing of any sizes of any units or adjusting any bedroom counts. None of those matters are involved in this request for insubstantial changes. The insubstantial changes typically fall along 4 lines. The first one is it's an adjustment for the mailbox kiosk. As the board may recall, on the original approved plans, the mailbox kiosk was going to be closer to Morse Street, kind of like right off of the entrance drive apron there. There was going to be a mailbox kiosk. And what the applicant is proposing here is actually to move that mailbox kiosk a little bit further into the development. And I provided, and I'm sorry I can't pull this up. I hope you have the plans in front of you, though, where the proposed location would be. But it's across, you go into the development. So you cross over the bridge, and it would be, as to the left-hand side, there are a series of approximately 4 surface parking spaces, and this would be somewhat next to it. So really what it does is it removes any impediments from the flow in and out of the development by cars picking up their mail. And it provides it in a location that is actually more convenient to the residents of the community. They're able to go there by car or by foot to check on their mail. So we think that this is an insubstantial change and actually will, as a practical matter, be a nice benefit to the community residents. The second, which I apologize, it was listed as the first one on my June 6th letter, is an adjustment that was shown on the layout and grading plan, and that's a proposed easement to go to the benefit of the neighbors at 109 Morse Street. This proposed easement location is in an area that is not used for anything for the project development, so it was just going to be just land that's part of the project site, but wasn't integral to it. And so we're proposing to show that as a proposed easement area for the benefit of 109. And again, that is shown on the submitted plan, that layout and grading plan sheet, sheet 2.0 that I had provided. The third proposed insubstantial change that we have is we're proposing currently on the existing plans, as one enters the access drive from Morris Street, on the left-hand side, there was to be a no idling, no stopping sign. We're proposing to include signs on both sides of that access drive within the first 50 feet, reading no engine idling, no stopping. That way it's applicable to vehicles entering the development as well as those exiting. And related, the fourth proposed adjustment is related to that no stopping and no idling. The applicant proposes that in addition to the signage, that it voluntarily would agree to have that within the homeowner association documents, a restriction on vehicular parking or idling within that first 50 feet off of Morris Street. And as you see in my June 6th letter, I proposed that we would be amenable to accepting an additional condition to be numbered E8. The comprehensive permit currently does not have a condition E8. And that would read, vehicular parking and engine idling are prohibited within the first 50 feet of the project's access road from its intersection with Morse Street towards the Rumford River Bridge. Such restrictions shall be included in the applicable homeowners association documents. This is in sum and substance the 4 minor adjustments that we've requested for the board to consider as an insubstantial change. And if the board has any questions on any of those 4 specific requests, I'm happy to entertain your questions and give you further clarification.
Okay. Lori, questions?
I don't have any questions.
Eric?
No, I don't.
Okay. So what I want to do is make a motion at this point in time, and then we can discuss the motion. And I'll read it. It's somewhat lengthy. The comprehensive permit that was granted to 119 Morse Street Realty Trust by this board in case number 22-11 be and hereby is modified as proposed within the said 119 Morse Street Realty Trust's June 6, 2024 written notice of proposed insubstantial changes to such comprehensive permit, which such modifications the board hereby determines pursuant to 760 CMR 56.0511A and 760 CMR 56.0511B to be insubstantial with reference to the factors set forth at 760 CMR 56.074, and is further modified to correct the scrivener's error in the board's comprehensive permit decision as follows. 1. The final engineering drawings and plans that are required pursuant to conditions A13-2 and C110 of the comprehensive permit decision shall set forth the location of the mail kiosk consistent with the location of the mail kiosk that is depicted on that certain layout and grading plan that is dated March 1, 2024, as prepared by Bay Colony Group, Inc., a copy of which has been provided to the board. 2, in the event and to the extent that an easement is granted for benefit of the owners of the property situated at 109 Morse Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, which such easement the board acknowledges does not and will not impact the terms and conditions of the permit, the aforesaid final engineering drawings and plans shall set forth the location of such easement as the same is generally shown on the aforesaid layout and grading plan. 3, the following paragraph shall be added to condition E4 of the comprehensive permit decision. The applicant shall install, and the homeowners association shall maintain, freestanding signage that shall read, "No engine idling, no stopping," along both sides of the site's access roadway for a distance of 50 feet from the intersection of such roadway and Morse Street. 4, the following new condition shall be added to the comprehensive permit decision as condition E8. The parking of motor vehicles and the idling of motor vehicle engines shall be prohibited along both sides of the site's access roadway for a distance of 50 feet from the intersection of such roadway and Morse Street. Such prohibition shall be set forth in the applicable homeowners association documents. 5, paragraph 29 of the comprehensive permit decision be and hereby is revised and rewritten as follows to correct a drafting error therein. The board finds that local concerns do not outweigh the regional need for affordable housing, and that granting certain waivers from local bylaws and regulations is acceptable, even though granting any waivers may have an adverse impact on local concerns. So I'm going to make that motion. Somebody second it?
Second?
Okay, any discussion?
Not for me.
No.
Okay, my feeling is, number one, that these changes are clearly insubstantial. We've, in other comprehensive permits, have determined that requested modifications are insubstantial. They've typically dealt with things like screening of porches and extensions, also a dog park on a comprehensive permit development that we had approved. I do want to make a couple of comments, though, about the motion. Number one, again, we're talking about moving the mail kiosk. We also considered moving the school bus stop, which is situated on Morse Street itself. And I met together with Pat Costello with the assistant superintendent of the school department to discuss that. And though he was amenable to it, he felt that it could not accommodate it because of the narrowness of the roadways, the internal roadways. So unfortunately, though he again was inclined to be favorable towards it, just felt that it was impossible to grant. As far as the Scribner's error in paragraph 29, that dealt with the words "do not." The consultant, our 40B consultant, in drafting the initial decision, neglected to include those words. I, in reviewing and revising and then finalizing the decision, overlooked it. I take full responsibility for the fact that that verbiage was not in the decision. Paragraph 29 deals with factual findings, findings of fact. It does not deal with any of the terms and conditions that we imposed in the decision. Any questions?
No.
Okay, well, we have a motion, and it was seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will draft a decision which will incorporate the motion, and that decision will need to be recorded together with the initial comprehensive permit decision. If there are any further questions, Attorney Kiefer, just let me know. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Minutes from our May 16 meeting. Any questions, comments?
No.
Okay, all in, a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Before we go on to Mr. Spillane, and we're only a couple of minutes behind, Pat Costello, who is town council, is retiring in a couple of days. And I do want to publicly express appreciation for this board and for me personally for his legal assistance, advice, and representation. It's been a pleasure to work with him, and he will be missed, but I certainly hope that his future endeavors are successful and enjoyable. Okay, the time being 7:45 p.m., David M. Ferencik seeks a special permit pursuant to Section 3.1, Table 3-1, Table of Uses, Use Group L, Accessory Uses, Item Number 5 of the Code of the Town of Foxborough, Massachusetts, Chapter 275 Zoning, to allow a residential garage 27 feet in height with a footprint of 1,512 square feet, as well as any other special permits, findings, and/or variances that may be required. Subject property is located at 6 Water Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, in the R40 Residential and Agricultural District, and is not in any restrictive overlay district.
Good evening, Attorney Frank Spillane, here with the applicant, David Ferencik, described his application. Also with David is his family. Would you like to introduce them?
My father, my wife Megan, my son Jake, and one daughter, Edith and Evelyn.
Are your sons and daughter going to speak, or? Because they'll can come
We
up
need more
with you.
chairs.
See how this goes.
Again, the property address is 6 Water Street. Water Street, of course, is off of South Street and off of Prospect Street, and it's located in the R40 zoning district. Again, the applicant is requesting a special permit under Section 3.1, Table 3-1, Table of Uses, Use Group 1, Accessory Uses, Item Number 5, to allow a detached residential garage that exceeds 21 feet in height and has a footprint greater than 625 square feet. The applicant is proposing a detached garage, 27 feet in height, with a footprint of 1,512 square feet. With our application, we filed a plan from Bay Colony showing the location. as well as floor plans and elevation plans of the proposed garage. At the site, the original single-family dwelling was built around 1948. The Ferenciks purchased the property in September of 2016, and the dwelling at that time contained 2 bedrooms, 1 full and 1 half bathroom, a living room, a kitchen, and a mud area, as well as a small 1-car attached garage. The dwelling at that time had a living area of approximately 1,200 square feet. In 2018, the Ferenciks renovated the house by adding 2 bedrooms, 1 full bath and 1 half bath, as well as a screened porch, and also a deck was added. The addition contains a living area of approximately 594 square feet, thereby making the total living area per the assessor's card of 1,881 square feet in the house. The existing dwelling has very limited closet and storage space because of its age. The basement per the assessor's card has approximately 1,582 square feet of area with no living area down there. You access it through stairs in the mudroom. The basement is mostly finished. There's an old half bathroom in there, and it's currently used for woodworking by Dave, crafts and hobbies. There's a laundry area, a lot of storage, and there's a very small TV area that's never used. The basement is very damp, and there's a dehumidifier which runs most of the time. The house has no real usable attic. The attic has access by a pull-down stairs and contains only insulation. There is no flooring up there. The attached garage is small, approximately 336 square feet, 24 by 14. It currently contains all the applicants, or some of the applicants, I should say, yard tools and such. It contains a John Deere tractor, which he uses for both mowing and plowing, bicycles, a grill, the kids' bikes and toys. There's also a mechanic bench in there, mechanic toys. There's a sporting equipment and other household and kids' items. The garage does have a small loft, but it only can be accessed using a ladder, painter's ladder type, and is used only for long-term storage because it's so hard to get to. The original house was built on cinder blocks foundation. The addition was poured concrete, but the house cannot add a second story without incurring a great deal of expense. On the property, there is a pop-up tent garage in the back, approximately in the rear of the lot near where the proposed garage will be. It contains additional equipment such as a push mower, wood splitter, chipper, other yard equipment, kayak, canoe, and other items. The lot itself is pre-existing non-conforming because the lot has frontage of 194 feet where 200 feet is required. However, it's a large lot with 78,692 square feet of area where only 40,000 square feet is required. It's approximately 1.8 acres and about twice as large as required. It's a long rectangular parcel. It's a deep lot with an average length of over 400 feet from the front lot line to the rear lot line. The house itself is located approximately 200 feet from Water Street, so it's about in the middle of the lot. And there's a pond located on the parcel along the east side yard. So when you're looking at the house, the pond is to your left. It's partially on their property and 2 other properties. The majority of it is on their property. And therefore, the dwelling is located within the 100-foot wetlands buffer zone. Again, the applicant is requesting a special permit to build a garage, again, 27 feet in height, 1,500 square feet footprint in the rear of the property. The garage will contain a second floor. We don't know the usable square footage, but the square footage from side to side is just over 1,000 square feet, which includes the stair area and where the roof comes down. The garage on the first floor, the proposed garage on the first floor, would be used for storage of the applicant's truck. He also has a 1976 Volvo that is currently stored off-site that he'd like to store there. His father's 1955 Chevy truck, his motorcycle. He also would like to have a wood shop area in there, which will contain his mechanical bench and tools, as well as all of his woodworking equipment and tools. The remainder of the first floor area would be used to store the applicant's yard equipment, again, all those things I indicated previously and others, as well as, bikes, sporting equipment, toys, and other outdoor items. The second floor would be used exclusively for personal storage and for the family's, arts and crafts and hobbies and things. The pop-up tent garage, as I indicated previously, which is at the rear of the property, will be removed, as well as a couple of small trees that are located right where the garage would go, and at least half of a large maple tree that's split. It grew and split, so at least half of it will have to go, and we'll have to determine whether the roots would survive with the garage, so it may go entirely. The existing garage would be used to garage Megan's Volvo station wagon. The driveway to the proposed garage from the existing driveway would be pervious, so it wouldn't be paved, and what it'll be made of will probably be determined with conservation if we get these approvals. But it will be pervious, it will not be paved. The applicant from the very beginning wanted the garage to look and have a feel of an old New England barn and designed it as such. The exterior of the garage will match the color of the existing dwelling. The garage will be used solely to store personal vehicles and personal property and used for personal work areas. The garage will not be used for any business or commercial uses or as a residential dwelling purposes, for any living, other than as what's been described for storage as such. So there'll be no living quarters whatsoever there. No running water will be installed, and the electrical service will be a single-phase service. The exterior lights will be limited to the two that are on two of the doors, the garage doors that hang over it, above the doors. And they face the dwelling. So they won't be facing any neighbors or anything like that. Heating will be installed on the first floor, maybe not initially, but eventually, just so that when he's there working, if he wants to work during the winter and it gets cold, he can have a little bit of heat. The location on the plan, as you can see, is located at the rear of the garage, the rear of the property. It's approximately 85 feet from the dwelling. It's also 320 feet from Water Street, 230 feet from Birch Tree Road, which is behind it, and approximately 322 feet from South Street. The closest dwelling to the proposed garage will be at 7 Birch Tree Road and is over 158 feet away. So it's in a location that is distant from any of the roadways and from the dwellings. If any of you went by that property, you'll see there are a lot of large trees there, very high to the left, and there are a lot of trees, large trees on the back, the rear of it also. The proposed garage will be located within a 100-foot conservation buffer zone, so they'll have to go in front of conservation. There's a ditch that runs from the pond kind of parallel to the lot line, and that's what causes the wetlands there. Those wetlands are still being flagged by Bay Colony, but conservation, they will have to go in front of conservation. They will not be located in the 25-foot no disturb zone. It won't be near that. The ditch is just an overflow mechanism for the pond on great rains. One of the things I asked the applicant about, did they look at just attaching it to the existing house? If they did that, one, it would kind of look out of place because it would be so high to want that area. But also, it would come within the structure itself, 1 foot of the 25 no disturb zone. So they would be working in that area. So they really couldn't do it there. And again, because of the foundation, it'd be very costly to try to go up there. And then, there would also be a number of trees that would have to be removed in order to do that. Again, would look out of place. But the applicant wanted to maintain the look and style of the house, the existing trees, the distance from the pond of the house from there, and decided to go with, putting a garage in the back, which they really wanted from the get-go, look like a barn, so it would fit in with the character of the neighborhood. The applicant has spoken with all the abutting neighbors, and they're all in support of the proposed garage and have no problems with the size or the height of the garage. He's spoken with also other neighbors, and they're all been spoken in favor of it. I filed with this board 13 letters from the abutters list, and 2 additional neighbors that were within 300 feet, and all of them stated that they reviewed the plans and location of the proposed garage, and none of them had any objections whatsoever. As this board is well aware, Section 10.4.1 of the zoning bylaw authorizes this board to grant a special permit after considering criteria set forth in 10.4.2 by means of a determination that the adverse effect of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impact to the town or the neighborhood in view of the characteristics of the site and the proposal in relation to that site. The factors include community needs serviced by the proposal. Again, the proposed garage will be privately owned and will serve only the purposes of the residences of the dwelling. It will not be used for any commercial or living quarters, and therefore will not affect any specific community needs. Traffic flow and safety, including parking and loading. The proposed garage will not present any traffic or safety issues. The amount of traffic to and from the site will not increase, and safety will not be impacted. The third is the adequacy of utilities and other public services. The property currently is adequately served by utilities and public services, and the proposed garage will not impose the need of any additional requirements. Neighborhood character and social structure. The construction and use of the proposed garage will have no effect on the character or social structure of the neighborhood, as the premises will continue to be used as residence with a residential structure. In view of the property, almost 80,000 square feet, and location of the proposed garage in the rear of the lot, where it can't really be seen from any of the roadways, and with the large amount of trees on the property, the proposed garage will not be a detriment to the character of the neighborhood. And the letters from the abutters and other neighbors strongly indicates that it will not be a detriment to the neighborhood. Additionally, impact on the natural environment. The proposed garage will have no impact on the natural environment, except for the removal of a few trees. The location of the proposed garage, and this will have even less of an impact than any addition that would go towards the pond on the home. Also, the potential economic and fiscal impact to the town. It will have some benefit to the town as a result in the increase of the property taxes from the assessment. Finally, though the proposed garage is significant in size and height, The applicant intends to use and design indicates that it will not be used for commercial or residential living purposes. And this board can protect against any adverse use of the structure with appropriate conditions. Also, the fact that the proposed garage will have a look of a New England barn located behind the dwelling provides a measure of visual continuity between the proposed garage and the dwelling because of the comparable exterior color and materials and the barn design, so it will fit right in. Therefore, we feel that no adverse effects of having the structure, the proposed structure, the garage, of its nature and size on the property, it will not be outweigh its beneficial impact to the town and the neighborhood. And we request that you approve this special permit request.
Questions?
My questions were answered, really. I was, my question was about the driveway, what was the surface going to be, but we have that.
Is it going to be like crushed stone, or?
I'm sorry? It'll be something like that. They'll work with conservation on that. But it will not be paved. It'll be pervious, so the water can drain right through it.
Same, a lot of the questions were answered too, with the use, as well as the, obviously not for commercial purposes and business. I had a few other questions, but you answered all of them in your presentation, so that was helpful too.
So
I like the design. Nice.
He put a lot of effort into it,
Yeah.
and I actually walked the property in the house, and everything is packed in everywhere.
I always like to ask about the neighbors too, and obviously you answered that question as well. Got the support of the neighbors too, so.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I always indicate. Go around and talk with your neighbors, see if anybody has any issues.
So the 13 letters that Frank sent, they're form letters, all say, "Dear Zoning Board of Appeals, I have reviewed the plans and location of the proposed barn located at 6 Water Street and have no objections." I can't read all of the handwriting as far as the names, but they're from residents of 11 Birch Tree Road, 9 Birch Tree, 7 Birch Tree, 5 Birch Tree, 3 Birch Tree, 121 South, 119 South, 111 South, 107 South, 2 Water, 10 Water, 14 Water, and 11 Water.
If you look at the abutters list.
Yeah, I would have,
And
yeah,
if you-
I'll match it up.
And if you have it in the same order that I gave it to you,
Yeah.
it follows the abutters list, and then there are a couple of additional ones for people that were within, significantly within 300 feet.
So I have no, I think you answered my questions. Obviously, you need an order of conditions from Conservation.
Yeah, they have to go to conservation. The wetlands are still being delineated, but they know we're going to be outside the 25-foot.
Yep, okay. We do have standard conditions, most of which you've already addressed. Actually, I'd be remiss, Scott, any questions or comments?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I just like the design too.
So if somebody wants to make a motion, well, actually, let me read the conditions, then we can make a motion. So number 1 is the proposed garage shall be a detached structure with dimensions that cannot exceed 36 feet in width, 42 feet in length, a footprint of 1,512 square feet, and 27 feet in height. 2, construction of the proposed garage shall be in accordance with these plans. 3, the proposed garage shall be situated on the property as set forth in the Bay Colony plan. 4, the proposed garage shall be constructed of exterior materials that are of comparable color as the exterior materials with which the residence is constructed. 5, the proposed garage is to be used solely to garage motor vehicles and to store personal property. And I'm considering the farm, not the farm equipment, like your John Deere equipment, your tractor, to be personal property. 6, the proposed garage shall not be used for any business or commercial activities and shall not be used for residential dwelling purposes. 7, running water to and within the proposed garage is prohibited. 8, electricity service within the proposed garage shall be restricted to single-phase electric service. 9 spotlights and pole lights on the subject property. The lead to or outside the proposed garage are prohibited. And 10, the storage of combustible or hazardous materials within or outside the proposed garage, including gasoline and used motor vehicle in excess of 5 gallons, is prohibited. And I guess we should add an 11, an order of conditions.
I don't know if it would be an order of conditions, it might just be a determination.
Determination, so we just do a determination from the,
You could just say the appropriate, as one.
Shall file with conservation.
Yeah, just say that they have to file with conservation. The appropriate application will be filed with the
okay,
conservation.
so say appropriate application shall be filed with the Conservation Commission. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the lighting,
Yep,
the 2 lights that are shown on the plan are fine?
yes.
Okay, I just want to confirm that.
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about would be just a row of, spotlights, pole lights, leading up to the property. Actually, before somebody makes the motion, well, make the motion first, then I want to say something. Go
To
ahead.
close the public hearing.
Those are the conditions.
We have to close the public hearing, right?
Oh, jeez. You have to remind me, yes. Let's close the
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, now make the motion to
Motion to approve the construction,
approve the special permit.
I'm sorry, the special permit
With the
with conditions as read.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, none. Frank, do you remember when we first added the bylaw provision
Yep,
for 625 square feet of,
the
footprint and above?
625? Making the 625?
Yeah, do you know what year that was?
Yeah. I have. $1998.
1998, so,
You can have that.
oh, thank you. Dave Brown was the zoning board chairman at the time. And, we had a flurry of oversized garage applications shortly after the bylaw provision that we just indicated was approved. And Dave's position and my position was, town meeting said no, so we're not going to approve it. Now, gradually, we started to say, well, if it's far enough back, if it's not obtrusive, we'll approve it. And then we've become a little bit more flexible over time. In addition, this particular application meets all of the criteria that Dave and I would have had, 26 years ago. Because the property being as large as it is, the garage being so far back, the character being comparable to the house, it's not obtrusive. So this is really the ideal of all the ones I think that we've had over the years. So good luck with it and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
1998, so it was last century. Jeez.
What's that?
Last century.
Actually, I was wondering that myself this morning, that's why I went looking.
I heard someone refer to that as the late 1900s.
Late 1900s. Thank you.
I'd like to compliment the well-behaved children.
What's that?
I'd like to compliment the
Oh, I
well-behaved.
bet.
My kids wouldn't be that. But
So Catherine is here. You guys want to move up? So we're fortunate to have 2 excellent candidates, and Catherine meet Blair, and Blair meet Catherine.
Very nice to meet you.
For one position. I was kind of hoping that, you would have decided amongst yourselves, or we would have said something to dissuade you. But apparently not, huh?
Having too many candidates is a great problem to have.
It was funny because my wife and I and my daughter's in-laws were helping them move personal items, today, because they're, my daughter and her husband are going through a major renovation in their house, and they have to rent another house over the course of the next 6 months. And I was telling my, the other grandfather, my daughter's father-in-law about this. And he, until he retired about, I guess, probably 13 years ago now, was the city solicitor for over 30 years in the city of Newton. And he said, well, that's a good thing to have, more than one candidate. And my thought was, well, maybe you should come to the meeting and help us make a decision. But typically, the decision is one of the select board. They make the appointment. And there really has been no consistency over the years as far as interviews or not interviews, by them. When Lorraine first came on the board as an associate member, they insisted that Lorraine and the individual who was moving up from associate to regular member both be in attendance at the select board meeting. And as you remember, they asked one question of Kim.
Yeah, and nothing.
And nothing of Lorraine. And yet the question they asked of Kim was something that I had said in my cover letter recommending her. You were not interviewed. When Lorraine was moving up into the regular position, the candidates were Lorraine and Kurt. And what they had said at that point, what the select board had said at that point, was they wanted a letter from Lorraine and Kurt explaining why they should be appointed. And then they were going to interview. They decided not to interview because Kurt in his letter recommended Lorraine. I was never interviewed as an associate. Now, I suspect that was partly because the then town council and one of the selectmen were recruiting me. But when it came time for me to be appointed as a regular member, there were actually 2 openings at that point in time, and the only 2 candidates were me and the other associate. But they still had us come in, and pretty much to show you, I don't want to say the absurdity of it, but sure. The fact that it wasn't absolutely necessary was one of the selectmen said, well, I know these 2 people, I've known them for a long time, they're going to do a good job, so let's appoint them. So they really didn't need us. But as I said, over the years, there's been no consistency. I remember on one occasion going to a meeting, somebody is walking, we at that point, we weren't even in town hall. We were in one of the school buildings. And this gentleman is walking up with me, and he says, is this where the zoning board meets? And I said, yes. Are you here for one of the applications? He said, no, I was just appointed to the board. And none of us knew that he was even a candidate or that somebody was going to be appointed. So, as I said, there's no consistency. So that said, why do you want to join us?
Would you like to go first? I've actually already done this once, so I'm back for the opportunity to do it twice, I guess. So if you'd like to go ahead, Catherine.
All right, thank you. So I am interested in doing this, I think, first and foremost, because I value public service. I spent 10 years working for 2 different cities in Massachusetts in the executive office, and also 4 years working for the Mass Municipal Association on land use and housing and zoning legislative matters. So I'm certainly familiar with it. My current role is with a nonprofit that is focused on public policy and providing technical assistance, so I'm certainly a bit more removed now, but I do miss local government, and I do believe that my background could be very helpful. So I think it's sort of a match of experience and what I value with opportunity.
Very nice.
Why this board particularly, though?
Well, I would say I've got some background with zoning in particular, which is not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, just from experience. Very much value the role that a board like this can play in ensuring fairness and consistency, while also, demonstrating a spirit of wanting to allow folks to enjoy their properties to the extent that it's possible without harming someone else's enjoyment of theirs and without, being an exception without reason. So, I think this board's very important. I think it's certainly something of a niche. I don't think there are too many people, other than the two folks here, who would necessarily be drawn to it or feel like they're well-suited for it. I'd also say generally I am good at analyzing and really being fact-based and very cautious, I think is the best way to describe it. So it seems like a good fit.
Blair, you want to?
Well, that's tough to follow. So, some of this will be repetitive from the last time I was here. I'm currently the Director of Public Works for the town of Norfolk. My duties in that department are the oversight of a number of divisions: stormwater, water, sewer, highways, landscape. I'm also the town's tree warden. I'm a master qualified tree warden, so I certainly have a lot of experience in that. With that being said, part of I work daily with the town planner, and which is the gateway to, as you know, the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Conservation Commission, as well as the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Board. So. Certainly I'm well versed with the interaction that not only does the town play with those boards, but the interaction that goes along with working with the public and trying to get infrastructure projects done and taken care of. And a lot of that deals with things that impact people's lives every day, whether it be from a water perspective or sidewalks, trees, just about everything we do has an impact, and I believe that living in Foxborough, when I moved here from the Berkshires, I looked around quite a bit. I looked at all the surrounding towns, having a job in Norfolk. I could have easily moved there, but there was something about Foxborough that I really fell in love with years ago, and I feel like it can have a great impact on this community. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that change is hard. There are people that detest change and people that love change, and a whole lot of people in between. And I think the zoning board has a duty there to try to bridge that, to try to find an even space and to bridge that problem because of that. I mean, the hearings that we've had tonight, you had to look at environmental impacts and neighbors, infrastructure issues, obviously, the zoning for the town. So there were a lot of topics that were dealt with here tonight. Very complex topics when you start to look at all the people involved, and I believe that my background is well suited for that.
Any questions? Eric?
No, it's a problem to have two, not two.
It is, I mean,
just two.
you've just made this.
Two very qualified candidates,
Right.
so it's.
Thank you for making this just as difficult.
Yeah, thank you.
It's like.
Like I said, it was
Really
tough to follow,
great-
so
great backgrounds.
It's a good problem, like we said, but
Yeah.
a problem.
I believe that the board can't go wrong either way.
I thank you both for coming.
We got to ask more questions, and we can't,
Where do you live?
I live on Chestnut Street.
Okay, nice.
Which side of Mechanic?
I'm on 61, so I'm right next to the old schoolhouse graveyard, right next door.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
And Blair, you're in Summerfield?
Forge.
Cannon Forge.
Yep.
How long have you been in town?
9 years.
Yeah, both of you are on other committees in town. I know you're on
I'm the
stadium.
Stadium Advisory Committee, I'm the vice chair.
Okay, and
Economic development.
this is actually, even though Catherine and I are both on economic development, this is the first time we've been in person together.
Right?
Really?
Yeah, because I think you came on just before the pandemic.
Right as it was started, I think
Right.
it was June
We had maybe like
2020.
2 meetings and it was all over.
And we haven't had any meetings.
No.
So, until last week,
Been
which I
quiet.
wasn't at, so. And you were on the committee that dealt with the town manager,
Yes, I was on
the search committee, or,
the more recent
Yeah.
town manager, yes.
we won't ask you about that.
Yeah.
Come on, questions?
I'm at a loss. I mean, both very qualified, really. Give me a minute.
Well, let me ask the question that I was asked when I was interviewed. And Catherine, I may have told you about this when you and I spoke, but at the time, the select board was the Board of Selectmen, and there were 3 selectmen. One was Jerry Rodman, who was a fixture in town for many, many, many years. Another one was Don Schmidt, who, Catherine, you may have known him or have heard of him, because for a number of years he was the zoning expert within what was then Housing and Community Development, Department of Housing and Community Development. And the third was Mike Coppola, who at one time was a planning board member, then he became a selectman, and eventually was a state representative for a number of years. So Mike asked me, and then he asked the other associate, how do you balance the fact that you have regulations that say you've got to do this, this, and this in order to qualify for a variance or a special permit or what have you, and somebody's property rights, and the fact that somebody who wants to do something, you're going to impose regulations that may not allow them, to do that. How do you balance what somebody wants to do and somebody's property rights with the strict requirements of the law?
So
I'm not going to tell you what I told them, but
I deal with this every single day. So whether it's maybe a great example, even though maybe not as major of an example, but would be a public shade tree, being the tree warden. So when a tree is on the edge of somebody's property near the road, that person, if they love that tree, it's on private property and it can't be touched. And if they want it down and they think it's dead or they're tired of raking up the leaves, then it's the town's property and they want no part of it. So in doing that, you have to do your homework. You have to go out, you have to figure out exactly where the tree is. At that point, you have to figure out and research where the right-of-way is, because I can't use public funds to work on private property, right? So it's imperative that I know exactly where the tree is in that instance. So you have to do your homework. That there gives you the basis to make an educated decision. It may not be one that the resident agrees with, but I think that, the law is important, the regulations are important. Now, that's not to say that on occasion there isn't some wiggle room there. And so within the reality of it, the tree could be dying, the tree could be half in the right of way. The law does allow for a little bit of gray area there because it is nature. There are things that you have to take into account. But I think that education and doing your homework is paramount before making any decision going forward. I think you have to really understand whether that's to go out and actually look at it. I would never tell someone we were going to take a tree down or leave a tree based on a phone conversation or a street view. I go out and look at every single one. But you have to make educated decisions and know what you're talking about in order to move forward. I think without doing a thorough investigation, I think you're in trouble.
That was great too. I would say I would look at it through equally important filters of being both careful and also consistent. I think careful in that really, there's zoning represents a policy-making process that has been completed with input and with years behind it. So I think ensuring consistency with it is very important, and it is what has gotten the community to be what it is, which I think most folks are appreciative of. At the same time, I think it's important to consider that even if you respect that process very much, it's impossible for anyone in a policymaking position to envision every circumstance that could possibly arise years into the future. So I think that's where the role of folks on the ZBA becomes very important. I think you want to make sure you're absolutely grounded in the law as it exists, but that you're also fully understanding the circumstances of what's before you and the relief valves that you have at your disposal. And for the consistency piece, I think whether your approach is more conservative, leaning toward the letter of the law, or more permissive, it's important to treat every decision with the same lens. So I think that would be my approach.
Both great answers.
I won't tell you mine.
You have to now.
Okay. So what I said to Michael in response to his question was, you need to uphold the integrity of the bylaw. And for whatever reason, Michael didn't follow up and ask me what I meant by that. And then a couple of months later, I happened to be talking to Don Schmidt about something, and I asked him the same question that Michael had posed to me, and Don said, you need to make the right decision. And I never asked him what he meant by that. But what I've thought about over the years is that if I can, it's basically to be flexible, but not torture the bylaw. You have the bylaw, you have to follow what the bylaw says.
Yep.
If you can find a reason to approve something without violating the bylaw, then you do that. If not, then not. And I think you've probably seen that with a couple of various decisions we've done where, again, the hardest thing is to determine whether there's substantial hardship.
Yeah.
And if somebody can build what they want without violating the dimensional requirements, then deny the variance. If they can't, then do it.
Let's talk about, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but dealing with people and their properties, and I'm not as seasoned as you guys here, but just obviously you can't please everyone all the time, and obviously with the highly contested ones, it's hard to, we've seen some heated arguments even in my short time here too, so it can be tough, and that's the hard thing too, but obviously trying to be as fair as you can to all involved is...
The other thing is, and I think, Catherine used the word circumstances. There's no right or wrong answer, as far as what we do. It's what we have to determine is what's appropriate under the circumstances. Right. If we approve an application, obviously the applicant says we made the right decision. If we deny it, vice versa. The modification of the comprehensive permit, obviously the applicant thought we made the right decision because we granted the comprehensive permit. The abutter who appealed said no, but from our standpoint, that was the appropriate decision under those circumstances. And as you know, when you read the materials, it initially started as 52 units.
Yeah,
so what was appropriate was to
Reduce it.
Yeah.
Still wasn't enough. but here we are, so looks like they're...
And again, I would say that, to your point, it's not so much right or wrong, but it's more of an interpretation, right? You have to look at the box you're put in by, meaning the regulations and the laws that pertain to this, again, doing your homework and being educated in that, and then seeing just how much of this particular scenario fits inside that box.
Yeah.
The reason that there's more than one person sitting here is because there's interpretation, and everybody has a different interpretation in how they see the world. So it's good that the board is more than one person because of that.
Is Scott still with us? I don't want to foreclose any questions, no. Oh,
there he is.
Scott, do you have any questions?
No, I just bless you because you have a big dilemma on your hand right now. They're both very qualified.
It's easier to make zoning decisions, I think.
Anyone want to be a commissioner?
No, thank you.
Seek to move to expand the board.
Yeah, Lorraine asked me about this earlier. State statute says a zoning board can have either 5 members or 3 members and associates. The town's bylaw, both the zoning bylaw and the general bylaw, says that we're a board of 3 members and 2 associates. So in order to have multiple associates, or more than 2 rather, we'd obviously have to change the town bylaws. And I've never seen a compelling reason to expand the size of the board. We've never had a problem with attendance. We've never had an issue, even on the comprehensive permits that went months. And we did have an issue last year because of Dave's, illness.
Right.
So there were really only 4 of us participating over the course of a 9-month period. We were able to accommodate, matters. So I have no opposition to expanding, but there's no compelling, reason. And that wouldn't solve any short-term issues anyhow.
Right,
Right.
right. I did ask.
So where are we?
Maybe do we draft like a letter to the selectmen with a summary of our observations and give it to them to make the decision?
I'm sorry, have they asked you to come in for interviews?
No.
Okay. Do you
No.
know if they plan to, or we don't know?
What I was told was, and this wasn't by a selectman, but by an individual in town manager's office, that what they want is for the boards, not just us, but
Right.
any
All
town
boards,
board
yeah.
and committee to make a determination. And then they would make a, decision to appoint that person unless they felt there was some reason not to. Now, the only reason they would make a decision not to, I would think, would be to speak with the individual, but they would go, pretty much go along with our determination. Well, let me ask this. From your respective standpoints, what do you feel we're looking for?
I think, the individual has to recognize the fact that we have a lot of requirements that have to be reviewed all the time. There's a lot of research to be done, and, taking into account the fact that sometimes you're sitting there scratching your head and figuring out, why can't we make this work? Because it sounds so reasonable, but it still doesn't fit within the parameters that we're limited by. So I think we would, need somebody who would feel comfortable in that arena. And I think that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, both very qualified for what we need. So just back to the same issue. 2 good candidates with, so it's put on us, is what you're saying at this point, for at least a recommendation.
Unless we punt it, yeah. Unless we decide to punt it. I mean, from my perspective, it's compatibility with us, and
Yeah.
and I think that we would have compatibility. I'm not looking for somebody who has 25 years of zoning experience, but rather somebody that would interact with us. I think of 2 things that, Kim has said in the past, and one is we don't always agree, but we respect each other. And the second, when we first met with you, Kim's initial reaction was, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was, okay, this is the person we want. So, even though you and I had already talked, but,
Yeah.
and I had that same recognition, but, still, it was recognized by, by others. So it's that compatibility, and there's nothing here that would lead me to believe that we couldn't get along. So, are you thinking a letter to the select board, saying these are our observations?
Yeah, I think if we provide you our notes, you can summarize that and present it.
I think that's fair. I'm happy to do that.
I hate to punt something, but,
I work in government every day. It doesn't move at lightning speed.
I mean, if I could think of a way to have 3 associates,
Absolutely.
I would do that.
Yeah.
One of things that constantly goes through my mind is that I'm not going to be here forever. And I want to see continuity in the board and, people who are on the board who are going to want to be here 5 years, 7 years, 10 years from now, and will not necessarily take my place, but will, carve, his or her own, path as far as, working on the zoning board. Because I've been on this board for over 30 years, or almost 30 years. And it's been about 10 years of being the chair, good, bad, or indifferent. But, it's become something that's important to me, especially now that I've been retired for a couple of years and spend as much time on it as I do. And so I'm always thinking about what's the future going to hold. And you haven't shown me anything that would say, these aren't the right people.
Right.
So, but
As I said in the opening, I think that's a great problem to have. Not an easy decision. I don't think you could go wrong with either one of us, but that doesn't help you at all, so. But then again, the Zoning Board of Appeal is all about making hard decisions.
Yeah.
So,
and we're not doing it.
right? Add one more to the list, I guess.
As I said, it's easy to make a zoning decision.
So we should send our notes to Diana, like, no group. So individually to you,
Yeah.
and then you can pass them on to Barney to compile.
Yeah, what I can do is then draft a letter and ask the select board to consider that and to meet with you, hopefully.
Sure.
And I suspect that's something that, if they're going to have an interview process, that we would participate in. Or I wouldn't say participate, we would be there.
Absolutely.
Or I would be there at least, at the very least, so. Thank you. I wish we
having
could have made a decision, but you didn't make things easy for us.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you
again.
for having us.
Have a
Have
good
a nice
night.
evening.
Appreciate it.
So we have one for July so far?
I passed it out. There's one, it's another one of those older multifamily homes. He's keeping the main part and
Yeah.
tearing down the old addition, and putting up a bigger addition, so it's over 25%.
Yep.
And the deadline is tomorrow or Friday?
Today, I made it today because of the holiday next week,
Okay.
because,
So that would be it then for next?
yeah, so that's it. I didn't hear it from anybody else anyway, so.
Okay.
This is the person you had said a couple of weeks ago was,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I just didn't recognize him. I should by now. This is like the third time he's been here, but they all blur together. But yeah, I think that Scott, there wasn't anybody else floating around for garages or additions or anything, no.
Yeah, not that I know of. It's Chris Ritos that's doing that one, and he's done several in town so far.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't heard anything through the grapevine of any garages or anything coming before the board. And
Everyone's
hopefully
taking
no
this
more
long.
appeals against me.
Scott, who did the select board approve for town council?
It's someone
I
else.
think it was Solomon.
So it'll be, me, Tallerman, Costa?
Yep.
Okay.
Who is it, sir?
I think I have a meeting with them. Matt and I will be meeting with Jay Talaman soon. I just can't remember the date. To discuss open issues that we have right now that are in court. And I think you were on that too. I'm not sure.
The email I got from Katie was to me and to Kevin Kevin Weinfeld, asking if we can meet
Yeah, I
with
think
you.
you,
and
Kevin Weinfeld, myself, I can't think of anybody else. I think she might have sent that separately to Matt, but I told her, I was like, if you want Matt and I to go, because Matt and I, Brennan and I have been working a lot together on different aspects in town, different issues in town. So we kind of like been tag teaming together to get things done.
Yeah, she didn't indicate who, in the email to Kevin and me, who the town council was.
I thought it was Talaman. I thought it was, he was invited on it too.
Okay.
I'm like 99% sure it was Talaman
Okay.
because I saw the name.
All right. Anything else?
I'm out tomorrow and all next week, so you won't be hearing from me.
Great vacation.
I'm not going anywhere, but, you know, I just won't
Staycation.
be here.
Enjoy.
All right, motion to adjourn.
I'm out next week too, as well.
You're out
So,
next week?
Enjoy.
Yes,
I'll go visit Scott.
stay vacation as well.
Enjoy.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Good night.